Okay, welcome to today's verdict. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesh. We have a great show today. Two guests who have never been on. The first one is Council Member Amanda Farias. She'll be discussing menstrual products and new legislation. And after that, we have State Senator John Liu. He'll be discussing the George Santos-inspired bill, keeping politicians honest. As you can see, we have some great topics. So stay with us. Today's verdict starts right now. All right, welcome back to today's verdict. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesh. I'm excited today. We have somebody new coming to the show. That's Council Member Amanda Farias. Council Member, how are you doing today?
I'm great. We just went through a couple of long budget meetings in the council, and I have survived. And so I'm excited to start this week.
Well, first and foremost, what are you doing for the holidays? Anything exciting, interesting?
I get to keep it pretty low key. My mom handles all of the holiday stuff, so I just got to show up with gifts. And that's pretty much it, which is the good part.
You know, we're going to somebody's house for Christmas, and I never know how many gifts to bring and who to bring it for. And it's a little because we celebrate Hanukkah, so we don't we sometimes we get a little bit confused as to the Christmas tradition, but we're excited because we love going to people's houses for Christmas. We love trying to be included, and it's a wonderful holiday, so we can't wait. So, all right. In the meantime, Amanda, just tell us a little bit about you. How'd you get into this business?
Yeah, well, thank you. I actually was born and raised in my district. I'm a Soundview native. And I really started out getting involved in politics in college and grad school. Before that, the only really like interface or interactions I had with voting or with elections was pulling the lever for my grandmother when she voted. That was pretty much most of the discussions in my household. And so when I got into I was at St. John's University as a student. I had a couple of friends that were working local elections, and that's really how I started getting my toes wet, figuring out how to look at data aggregation, looking at communities and seeing what's the best way to pull voters out. And so I started as a campaign organizer, and then really grew into working on a presidential race. So I worked on Barack Obama's reelection, and I ended up coming back to New York City and saying, after working in Colorado and realizing that my international studies, all those things I cared about, really were happening hyper localized in my own communities, where it was the best way to make an impact. And so I ended up working at the New York City Council. And like fast forward, I was asked to consider to run for office. I ran, I lost. And yeah, I came in as the runner up. And then really, I just put pen to paper, lots of strategizing and planning for the next time I was going to, primary that incumbent and run for the seat. And so here we are in 2021 with an electoral win and being able to be representing my district for another 2 years after
Well,
this last November.
just as an aside, a big St. John's fan here. I went to St. John's Law School.
Oh,
What type of issues do you see in your district? What are the types of things that seem to come up more than any other time? I assume for most council members, it's rent. It could be everything from noise complaints to crime. What seems to be coming through your door?
yeah, I mean the biggest issues that we're definitely facing are what everyone is facing across the city is the housing crisis. We
Yeah.
have folks post-pandemic that are doubled up, tripled up, that are now maybe have moved away a decade ago from an intergenerational household to back being with the mother and the grandmother or a sibling back into the household. So really being able to focus in on how do we increase vouchers? How do we get landlords and folks interested in accepting vouchers and building more housing? I mean, I want to be proactive in ensuring that we can add more to the housing stock. And we're doing just that in the district with some of the capital funds that I've had over the last two budget cycles. outside of that, it's really micro mobility and quality of life issues, right? It is the noise complaints, it's the potholes, it's the trucks going down the residential road,
Yeah.
or people leaving e-scooters across the sidewalk, things like that, that really take a collective effort of folks in the community to handle.
Are there issues with homelessness in your district, in that area? Because I know, I mean, I'm down in Manhattan,
Mhm.
Upper East Side. There always seems to be issues anywhere you are in the city. Does it seem that way for you as well?
We don't have it too prevalent in the district in terms of people visibly seeing it, which I think sometimes feels like it's heightened for people when you walk through different parts of the city. The more you can see folks that are unhoused, the more you feel like it's happening everywhere. But we definitely do have quite a few shelters where there are not maybe recreation or mental health services that are needed. And so, we do end up having to figure out different creative ways on how to get those people assistance throughout the community.
All right, let's talk a little bit today about the comprehensive menstrual equity package that expands access to products and city facilities. I obviously don't know as much as others would know about this, so please enlighten me. Tell me about this if you could.
Yeah, so I was just a staffer in City Hall when initially former council member Jalissa Ferreras and other members were focused in on how to ensure there was menstrual equity products in our schools and other facilities at no cost to residents. And so what I did coming into this council was say, let's do a look back. Let's check in on some of those items and let's see how they're doing. And really what I noticed very quickly in talking to advocates and really talking into council staff was things were relatively okay, not necessarily being fully implemented as they should. And additionally, the rest of the nation has moved towards adding more access, changing language, and focusing in on what types of products are best used. And so I decided to create a 10 bill package to really expand our offerings and look at how we can ensure that all menstrual products for young people, for folks incarcerated, for people in shelters, have access to every product that's available. So what does that mean, I think,
Well,
right?
let's first start with products. What are the products that you're talking about?
Sure. So as of right now, before my bill passed, we were only offering menstrual pads and menstrual tampons, which meant that there were two offerings outside of several that are out there in the ether that people can use. One of my bills is expanding access to menstrual cups, which is just another product that has this is a more sustainable option, more economic option. Really, it's a silicone cup that has a lifespan of 10 years. And it actually, you know, you can have it in your purse readily available or have it in your desk. And you can use it at any given point, easy to clean, easy to use.
Let,
So
let
yeah.
me ask you a question. When do these discussions start? I know, listen, I have discussions with my own son, as he's, reached puberty or reaching puberty. You have these discussions. When these discussions happen in the family, and when do these discussions happen in school? When are these discussions even brought up for young ladies?
Yeah, so we actually, one of the bills in this package is helping us get a little closer to expanding when young people start learning about this. We're
Oh,
changing.
from sixth grade to fourth grade, it looks
Yeah,
like.
what's super exciting is, as many people know, your menstrual cycle can come at any given point, the point of where you hit puberty or start beginning to hit puberty.
Is there pushback from that, or are there parents who say, "Don't discuss this with my kids who are in fourth grade. You wait till sixth grade. I don't know. It's not your business." Does that happen?
No, I haven't had any pushback. And what I will say, I've had some sighs of relief from PTAs in that, they are having their young children at the age of 8 or 9 getting their menstrual cycle in school, and that having to be the first time that they're dealing with it, not being able to be at home with the parent or unable to know who to go to in the school facility itself on what's happening to them. So going down and from sixth grade to fourth grade is really critical, because what that means is education starts early. And it's not only education about what's happening to your body and what does menstruation mean. It's also about each of the products that are available for them to use and what they feel comfortable starting off with. So the more information that goes out there, the more comfortable people feel talking about it, the more stigma we get to remove. I mean, this is a natural bodily process that happens to half of the population.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier before we were on air. It's half the population is, will probably deal with this issue at some point. I can't think of anything that's would be more important for half the population. In terms of labeling, I know there's been issues with gender issues, and I'm not quite sure what was meant by that into the package. How does that work?
Yeah, so right now what we're seeing just generally in the sector, in the industry itself, is moving towards just more plain language of description of what each of these products are. So instead of saying something like a sanitary napkin, which basically says like what's happening to you is unsanitary, here's a sanitary napkin, or like this is a feminine hygiene product, we're now just using the regular language around menstrual
Term or
hygiene.
whatever it is. Okay.
Yeah, using it towards actually the terminology that it's used for. So menstrual hygiene product or menstruation products. So that's why we updated the language in documents and in each of the agencies.
Now I know the goal here also is just destigmatizing a natural experience, right? Destigmatizing a natural experience. Are those who are below the poverty line more affected by this issue, by the way? I mean, is it because nobody explains to them what options are available? How does that happen?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both an economic burden and an educational outreach burden. Realistically, depending on what your residence looks like, whether that you're renting in a home or you own a home or you're within a shelter, you're really the only access you have is what's available in that place or what you can afford to have. If you look at menstrual products across the board, they are not inexpensive products. I mean, up until a handful of years ago, we also had a pink tax, right? A tax that were feminine hygiene products, menstrual hygiene products, even pink razors to shave were 2-3 times the amount than it was for products for men. And so there is an economic burden that comes with a lot of these products. So if you don't know where to get them affordably or how to access them in the place of your residence or your school or your place of work, that definitely doesn't help with how much you have to pay to purchase them for something that's happening monthly to maybe more than one person in the household.
All right, Councilmember Amanda Farias, I said it properly, I hope. You taught me a ton today. I didn't know anything about this, but now I do. And the public and my viewers will be very happy to learn a lot about what you were talking about. So we really appreciate it. We'd love to have you back.
I'd love to come back. And if anyone has any questions, they're more than happy to reach out. We have 5 bills in the package that passed that cover a bunch of city agencies, all of our city documents. And we're trying to make sure we put a great booklet together for students to learn about this entire process to take home to the parents.
In the meantime, you have a very happy holiday.
You as well. Thank you.
Stay with us. Today's Verdict has so much more right after this.
Hey everyone, it's your girl Kat from the Kitty Rose Lifestyle, also from The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray every week right here at BronxNet, Saturdays at 11 p.m. Wow, 30 years. 30 years of BronxNet public access television. I'm a girl from Brooklyn and came to the Bronx 25 years ago, started my journey on BronxNet on public access television in 2016, and BronxNet is where I got my start. BronxNet, I feel like, is a home away from home. They support all of my endeavors, and I wouldn't have been able to be on any of the other channels if it wasn't for the fundamentals that I learned right here at my start here at BronxNet. So I am so appreciative. My son says I should stop telling people I'm from Brooklyn because I've been here now, Bronx strong, for 22 years. So I'm so grateful, and I wish you much success in 30 years, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30 more, because public access is necessary so that people like myself can have a voice. Yes, BronxNet, it's your girl Kat from Kitty Rose. Check me out every Saturday at 11 p.m. right here, Channel 68, The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. Mwah.
57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. "55% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. "34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit bronxnet.org to learn more.
All right, welcome back to today's verdict. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesh. We have a first-time guest, State Senator John Liu, and I'm very excited. John, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm not so happy that I'm your first-time guest. I should have been on many more times before, but I'll take it.
It depends on how you do today to see, but I'm sure you're going to be great because everybody says such wonderful things about you. And we're just excited to have you on, to be quite honest. You've done a lot for this city. And everyone who comes on always wants to come back. So that's a pretty good indication of the show.
Good.
I understand you're biking today. Am I correct?
Yeah, I bike around the city. It's a lot faster than walking.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of biking around the city. I like the bike lanes. I use them. And I think, with congestion pricing and all the other things that are coming around New York, I think biking's not such a bad idea. Plus,
Well, the bikes have a huge exemption from congestion pricing, so more reason to bike.
More reason to bike, but wear a helmet. At least I wear a helmet. That's what I
got my helmet.
Okay, that's all that matters. All right, let's just tell, if you could just tell the viewers who haven't met you yet, just a little bit about you. How'd you get into this line of work? Tell me a little bit about yourself, John, if you could.
I mean, there's not much to say about myself. I'm a member of the state senate. Been here for 5 years. It's not my first rodeo. I served in city council and also as New York City comptroller. And I ran for office because I was pissed off about a lot of things, and I complained a lot. And my wife said, "You complain a lot. Do something about it." So that's what I did. I ran for office.
That's like my wife, but I'm not running for office. I'll just keep doing this. I think I know what's good for me. All right, let's talk a little bit about this this bill and talk a little bit about George Santos. I'm not particularly happy.
I don't want to talk about him at all, but we'll talk about legislation.
Right, because we don't want to give him any extra credit. Let's put it that way. I completely understand. I'm not a big fan. But let's talk about the legislation, shall we? Because I think there are a lot of things to unpack here. If you could, talk to us a little bit about it.
I don't think there's that much to unpack. I think it's pretty straightforward. The bill that Assemblymember Gina Saliti put in the Assembly and I'm putting in the Senate is a bill that would require candidates for public office to file an affirmation statement with the Board of Elections about basic biographical information that the candidate claims. If the candidate doesn't claim anything, they don't have to file anything. But if they say that they got a degree from a certain school, they should be able to sign an affirmation statement that they actually did go to that school and graduated with that degree.
And I'm fine with that, because we should be able to vet out whether you went to, for me, Union College or St. John's Law School, and people should really be able to know who I really am if I'm saying that, and I'm applying for a board position or something like that. But there is also puffery, should we say, in our field, where we're making ourselves out to be as good as we possibly can for certain positions, right?
Yeah, and people, there will be some puffery, whether it be candidates for political office or any other kind of job applicant. And my bill doesn't prohibit that or try to control that in any way. It's simply about basic biographical information that can't really that can't be embellished in any way. You
Right.
say you graduated from XYZ University with a degree in ABC. That's not, you can't embellish that. It's a matter of fact. And when you sign a sworn statement that is the case, it allows anybody, whether it be you or I or any voter or any good government group or journalists or even opponents for that matter, to simply call the school and say, hey, did this guy get the degree as he or she claims? So that's what this is about. And it's not just about education. It's also about, if you said you worked at a certain company, it's very easy for somebody to verify that. But
Right,
the
and I agree with you with that. But that's the only issue I sometimes have is your employment history, because most people do put down where they worked, but they also put down the duties of what they did at the employ, and that's where the puffery comes in. I was in charge of 35 employees. I managed the office. I did this. I did that. When it turns out it was only 30 employees. And
look, I don't think we're getting that detailed. I mean, the bottom line is you can with any piece of proposed legislation, you can think of 100 different reasons why there could be some problem. It's pretty simple here. The fact is, when people run for public office, there needs to be some kind of check on what they claim. We're not talking about political opinions or how you describe your life. We're talking about basic information about your educational institutions and degrees, your military service, if you claim so, companies that you used to work at. And it's not about describing exactly what you did at the company. We're not saying you put your whole resume on this. This is simply saying you worked at PQR company. Swear a statement that is true. Even if somebody swears a statement that, they used to manage a team of 35 employees, I mean, nobody can really check that, but it's certainly easy to check and potentially prosecute if you sign a false statement.
Well, I want to ask you about that, the prosecuting part. What's the criminal penalty for something that you think would be perjury for this? Where are we heading here?
Well, it's you're excuse me. You're an attorney. You know what
I was about to say. I know from the criminal statutes, but is there anything being added in there? Is there any? It's penalties of perjury. Okay.
There's nothing. It's basically the candidate files a sworn statement with the Board of Elections, and like with any other sworn statement, there's a penalty of perjury if you sign a statement containing information that is just not true. And some of the information, it's possible, because you're bringing this up, that it could be subjective. But other information, it's very clear. It's either true or false. And if you sign a statement that has false information, you're subject to penalty of perjury. And that's for prosecutors to determine. But it's not necessarily up to prosecutors to find that information, right? It's like I said before, a lot of opponents will check each other's information. In the case of that guy that I don't want to mention the name of, I mean, it was just so many lies. And at some point it almost becomes a public protection measure where the public, in this case, voters, there should be some kind of support so that they know at least some basic information is in fact true.
I know you're at District 16. Tell me what you've been working on. Anything in particular that you've also been doing in the district? Issues with housing, issue with noise. What else has been coming across your desk?
Well, I'm honored and proud to represent my Senate district, but many of the issues are common across the city. The main part of my portfolio in the state Senate is education, whether it be higher education in our colleges and universities or in our public schools. We've got the issue of class sizes being still too large in much of New York City. and I'm working with the Department of Education to bring our class sizes down.
You know, I'm
In
a
this
product,
mandated legislation.
I'm a product of the New York public schools myself. I never had, whether it was elementary school, junior high school, or high school, more than 27, 28 kids in a class. But I understand that's a lot different now. You can really get into the 30s and a little bit above, crowding in the schools.
Yes, it's many of the classes are overcrowded.
Yeah.
I don't know, David. I feel like I'm kind of your age, but when I was growing up in public school, like in my kindergarten class, there were 50 kids, literally
Wow.
50. I can count the number of kids in my kindergarten class photo. So, I think class sizes have been a problem in New York City for a long time, and in fact, it was one of the main bases behind the lawsuit that parents litigated some 20 years ago, called the Campaign for Fiscal Equity. And the courts just determined that kids were not, in fact, getting a sound basic education due to a number of factors, perhaps the most prominent factor being excessively large class sizes. And so this is something that the city needs to focus on, especially since the state has now fully funded what's called foundation aid, which was meant to provide that sound basic education and includes money for reducing class sizes.
Well, I'm a believer. I always believe in education, believe in smaller class sizes, and I believe in the public school system of New York. I always have, and I always will. And we want to thank you very much, State Senator, for coming on. Now that the viewers know you and like you, hey, on my show, you're going to be coming back all the time. How's that?
Well, I'm no stranger to BronxNet, but good to be on your show, David.
It's our pleasure. All right, stay with us. Today's verdict.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays to you. Stay with us. Today's verdict has so much more right
Yes.
after.
I remember when the Bronx did not really have a media outlet properly representing the people of the Bronx.
BronxNet provides for the community by being a community where people can be empowered to share their voices.
We are in a really great place technologically. We've got all the resources that we need to be effective.
Whether it's through cameras, storytelling, editing, we have provided those services for 30 years.
BronxNet's mission is to be a voice for the community.
To educate, to inform, and to inspire.
And you can be a part of it. We've built studios for you.
Well, that's all we have for today. I'd like to thank both of our guests for joining us, and of course, you, the viewers, for watching. If you have an issue or a topic you'd like to see on a future edition of Today's Verdict, feel free to email me at davidlesh@bronxnet.org. Till the next time, know your issues, reach your verdicts. I'll see you in 2 weeks.